Hey lovelings, it's me, Allison Gray, the artist also known as When Humans Had Wings, and this is a get ready with me video with a twist. So you see, I'm about to prepare for the promotional photo shoot for my album Ugly, the central symbol of which is my actual literal spirit animal, the deep sea anglerfish. No, I'm not joking. I will explain more in just a second. Hang tight. But basically, the album is called Ugly, and it's all about the spiritual function of ugliness, the purpose behind ugliness, the value of ugliness. And when I say ugly, I'm not necessarily talking aesthetics, although there is a very strong relationship between aesthetics and the soul. So I'm gonna talk about all of that while doing my makeup. Now, here's the twist on this Get Ready With Me video. Most Get Ready With Me videos follow the same progression where the person in the video starts off looking ugly or like not their best self. That's subjective, but so they might have their hair up in a bun and maybe they just got out of bed and maybe they have some acne going on, whatever, and then they start putting on their makeup, and then at the end they finally look pretty or look presentable enough to leave the house. That's kind of the implication of a lot of these videos, that the transformation is from ugly to pretty. And that's what it means to get ready for the day, to make yourself acceptable to the eyes of others, right? To conform to standards you've absorbed from the culture around you that maybe you've never even considered don't come from within you and are actually from your culture. So instead of a typical Get Ready With Me where I'm gonna try to look prettier over the course of the video, per the concept of the album Ugly, I am going to intentionally make myself uglier with makeup. So let me take a second to say I'm about to enhance certain features of my face that I have historically been very self-conscious about. Now, you'll see I'm gonna be playing up things that usually people would play down. For example, the circles I have under my eyes or like certain other features you'll see. When I do this, it is not at all to suggest that I think that these features of the face are objectively ugly or that anyone who has these features doesn't look good. It's not my intention at all. The purpose of this whole album is to not force myself to face, but develop the courage to face my ugly things in life, not only aesthetically, but spiritually. And for me, certain aspects of my face hold deep symbolism that I suppose in the act of covering up these features, it's like a hiding of the self from the self. And so I'm using makeup now, I guess you could say as a spiritual practice, to make myself look at things I normally try not to look at about myself. And there's a physical layer to this, and of course there's the metaphysical layer to this. So without further ado, let's get started. And as I start doing my makeup, I'm gonna tell you about the concept of the album. So primer, I have two primers. I don't know which one to use. Well, this one's, oh, they're the same brand. Pardon me. I already did my hair earlier. I used a curl cream and twisted up my hair in sections so that when I took the twists out, my hair ended up looking kind of scraggly and raggedy. Something I've been self-conscious about for a long time is my hair. It is not in the condition it used to be in. I think you can tell that I spend a lot of time indoors. And so of course, when there's something about our appearance we would rather not see or that we'd rather other people don't see, it usually has a deep symbolic significance and serves as an indicator about something going on in the inner world. So I have been very self-conscious of how much I've isolated myself in this past year. Don't really leave the house. I've been such a homebody. And my hair shows that. And so I have spent a lot of time trying to make my hair look more moist and healthy and bouncy and strong, but today I am playing up the dryness and the shapelessness of my hair. And that's to make me face the fact that I have barely left the house this year. So, the album. Where do I start while this is drying? I think it was 9 years ago, I had, let me turn my fan on. That makes a lot more sense. Maybe 9 years ago, I was living in Queens and I had this roommate who was into woo-woo stuff like me. And she came home one day really excited, and she told us that she had just been part of a drum circle where they went through a guided meditation and met their spirit animals. So hers was an owl. She was super excited about this, and she shared the instructions for how to go through this meditation to meet your own spirit animal. So even though I was like spiritual back then, I wasn't like all that deep about it at the time. I hadn't yet had my awakening, and I hadn't yet become like lucid in the dream, so to speak. So I was kind of going through the motions and didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So one day, I think I had like maybe 15 minutes between errands. I was like, let me try this spirit animal meditation. I've got time. I really had no seriousness about it, which is part of why what happened next was so shocking. Long story short, the instructions included the following. Close your eyes, meditate, relax your mind. Don't try to force where this is going. Drop all your expectations. Begin visualizing that you're walking through nature. And that's left vague because you're supposed to let whatever nature scene pops up, right? As you're walking, just keep walking, keep relaxing, and then you will eventually come upon a door. And this is the door to the underworld. Go through it. Keep walking down deeper and deeper and deeper into the underworld. However that looks in your meditation, you will eventually find your spirit animal. I'm really condensing it. There was more to it than that, but that's the basics that you need to know to understand this next part. So I closed my eyes, started meditating, and I chose a desert scene because at the time I was like super obsessed with the desert. I wanted to move to Tucson. It was a whole thing. And I secretly really wanted to meet a wolf. I love wolves. So I high-key was trying to control where this meditation was going. So I just like visualized walking through the desert, walking, and eventually I came upon a huge tree. And this tree, let me put my foundation on now. This tree was huge and it had this big hollow in it. So, should I use liquid or... This shouldn't be such a hard decision. I'll use powder. Anyway, I walked into the hollow of the tree and stood there waiting for something to happen. It was like, okay, I thought I was supposed to be led down into the underworld. Why am I just standing in the hollow of a tree trunk? And then suddenly, water started like coming up real fast from the sand. So it was just like a flood from under the earth was coming up, and then it was around my ankles, it was around my knees, it was around my hips, and then suddenly I was just like immersed in the water. And then I was being dragged down. At this point, I became horrifyingly aware that I was no longer in control of this meditation. This was something else. This was like a spiritual journey. So, I just kept going deeper and deeper down into the water and recognized that I was in the deep ocean. And when I got to the deepest part of the ocean, it was super dark. Suddenly a giant deep sea anglerfish started circling me. Menacingly. Oh my god, the vibe that she gave off was so scary. So scary. So, she just starts circling me. and circling me. And oh, one of the instructions I was given for the meditation is when you come upon your spirit animal, you can ask them questions. You can say, hey, what's your name? Do you have any advice you want to give me? You know, have a dialogue with your spirit animal. So I was panicking and I did not know what to do. So I just kind of blurted out, what's your name? And she was just quiet and kept circling. And then I asked something else. I don't even remember anymore. And she was just quiet again. And now I'm like really scared of her because she's just circling, but she's not answering any of my questions. And I can't tell if that means she is gonna eat me or something. I had no idea what to make of this because just a second ago I had been in the desert looking for a wolf. And now here I am. And when I say this thing was giant, I mean she was like maybe this big and circling me. So she, you know, not like the little anglerfish that you might see in photos. So, I finally asked another question. Again, I don't remember what it was now. And then she viciously screamed, "You never come to visit," in this high, like shrill female voice. So now I'm even more confused because not only is she huge, but she's female? I don't know why, but I thought this thing would be, like, I always thought that the anglerfish with the light on its head was like, I don't know. I guess I just never really thought about it before. I didn't know anything about the anglerfish. So, now I'm freaking out for a different reason. I'm like, come to visit? I didn't know I was supposed to come to visit. What? And then, I just kept stammering, stuttering, couldn't think of anything to say. And as she kept circling, I eventually realized, okay, she's not going to eat me. She's just circling. That's just kind of what she does, I guess. So I could not think of anything else to do at that point. I was scared and confused, and she wasn't answering my questions. So what was the point of staying here? So I told her, okay, I'm going to go back up to the surface now. And then basically, the meditation ended and I avoided her for years. I only started seriously contemplating her in meditation again 3 years ago after the worst breakup of my life. And I felt that I had no choice left but to face her and figure out why I saw an anglerfish in a spirit animal meditation. Like, is it true that that's who I am? Is it true that that's my soul essence? And why does the potential of that reality scare me so much? You know, if it was true that I am this fish who lives in the deep water with a light on her head, what would that mean? Right? So once I started seriously meditating and understanding her symbolism, you know, the light on her head, the fact that she's a creature of the deep dark, and all, like, everything about her, only then did I begin to understand how I really am her. She really is me. Oh, and the craziest part is I learned when I started researching the anglerfish that they can indeed get to be about 3 or 4 feet long, something I didn't know prior to this meditation. And the one with the light on her head is the female of the species. That's another thing I didn't know when I started, you know, when I went on that journey, which leads me to believe I really did meet her, maybe on some other plane, maybe the astral, or I don't know where such spirit animal meditations take place. Point being, I feel that that experience initiated me into a profoundly deep understanding of myself that enabled me to heal on so many levels in so many ways. And the crux of all of that is the concept of ugliness. What got me started on thinking about ugly as a concept is, by the way, I'm trying to choose an eyeshadow color. I've only done this makeup once before and I don't remember what I did. Oh, I know what I have to do. I have to put primer on my eyes. Okay, anyway. I realized once I started taking the anglerfish seriously that for years I had cheated myself out of what could have been a really rich understanding of myself. It could have been a catalyst to spiritual growth. I had cheated myself out of all of that because she was ugly. That's it. That's the whole reason I was afraid to accept the possibility that this animal really was me, just because she's hard to look at. And so it was only when I decided to confront the thing that was hard to look at that this wellspring of spiritual treasures opened up for me. And that's the medicine I have been receiving from the anglerfish, and now it's turned into this album, this concept album where I explore all the different aspects of the anglerfish. And the medicine I hope to share with you all is what I've learned about the function of ugliness. Long story short, having said all of that, I have been questioning ugliness not from a purely aesthetic stance. You know what? Hold on. Oh, fuck. I was gonna say, I have a reference picture of which eyeshadow colors I used the last time I designed this makeup look, but it's on my phone, which is what I'm recording on right now, so I can't. Anyway, follow me here. What was I saying? Oh no. Okay, I'm not just talking about ugliness in terms of like cultural beauty standards, even though yes, that is very much a part of it. It's so much deeper than that. The things that we consider ugly in life are the things that are hard to look at. Quite literally, the word hideous contains the word hide in it. For something to be hideous, it has to be something we want to hide, whether from ourselves or others. What do we hide? We hide a lot of things, not just parts of our face we don't like with makeup or things about our body with clothing. We hide our emotions. We hide our sadness, our anger, our grief. We hide socially unacceptable desires. We hide our ambitions, our goals, our light, our power, what lights us up. A lot of us find ourselves toning ourselves down to try to make the people around us feel more comfortable. So in a way, we treat our own light as if it's ugly sometimes. And let's see what else. Memories. We can have bad memories that we repress, which is an attempt to hide one's own experiences from oneself, right? Denial is a response to spiritual ugliness. So, okay, it's time I just choose an eyeshadow color. I'm just talking and I'm not, doing the look. Yeah, let's go for glitter. I like me some glitter. Anyway, yeah, so I'm really interested in the question of what is the relationship between beauty and truth? And naturally related to beauty is ugliness. So what is the relationship between ugliness and truth? And so my short answer is that ugliness is like a litmus test. In the case of the anglerfish, I think her ugliness is a test of character, of who's strong enough, who's brave enough to get closer to her, see what she's really about. Not many people are, including myself, and I am her. So, it's only when you make the decision to get closer to her, to see what she's really about, that she reveals her mysteries and secrets and wisdom to the spiritual seeker who dares come closer to her. So her horrifying appearance is like a test of how superficial you are, how much you value outer appearances as opposed to finding the genuine truth in life, right? So I would say that was definitely true for me in those years before I started diving deep on who she is. I definitely didn't want to know a lot of things about myself, about the world, and whatnot. Okay, a real quick explanation. I have always been a little self-conscious about a lot of things about my eyes, mostly the huge amount of space between my eyebrows here, between my eyes and my eyebrows, and then these deep wells. So everything I'm doing with the makeup right now is meant to enhance all of that and make the space even wider, So, anyway, what was I saying? Let's see. Let's choose a really light color so that the space is like crazy enhanced. Yep, there we go. Meanwhile, beauty is a test in its own way. If you easily fall for beauty, it can be said that you don't really have a strong sense of willpower, right? I mean, there's this picture I'm thinking of. It's a famous picture where these two women, maybe in the 50s, 60s, I don't know, are walking down the street and they're wearing shorts. And at the time, this was like really not common, like it was scandalous. And as they're walking, in the picture, it shows that a car driven by a man who had been keeping his eyes on these women crashed into a telephone pole. So that's what I mean when I say falling easily for beauty. If you're easily distracted and tantalized and seduced by beauty, then you lose sight of what's actually important, whether it's literally a telephone pole that you shouldn't be running into, or spiritually speaking, you lose sight of the truth itself. You know, because the truth is not necessarily beautiful. The truth is not necessarily easy or pleasant or fun to look at. In fact, the truthiest truths in this reality, in our lives as we evolve as people, tend to be incredibly frightening, ugly, difficult, hard to deal with, things we'd rather not look at. So I'm starting to appreciate ugliness, not saying everything that is ugly is closer to the truth, although I want to come back to that point. I'm starting to appreciate ugliness as almost like a gateway to truth. Once you can learn how to navigate ugliness and approach it with genuine openness, dimensions of reality that weren't available to you previously start opening up. It's pretty magical. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm gonna make the bags under my eyes look deeper, and it's really interesting. I first noticed that I have these wells under my eyes when I met this very, 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 very mystical woman in high school. Very odd character who had a very symbolic way of thinking, a lot like I do. Surprise, surprise, we were both Pisces moons. And she told me about a time she encountered like a traditional face reader. I believe he was Chinese. You know, face reading is like an ancient practice that posits that the features of the face have profound symbolic significance, right? So you can basically tell a lot about a person just from looking at their face. And I know it's like politically incorrect to say that these days because everyone's like, oh, it's body shaming. But I mean, the form is the thing. Like, your body is you. There's nothing more you than your body. So your body is basically a crystallization. Is that a word? Crystallization of your soul's essence. Your body is the dense form of your soul. So it's, you know, there's a lot of spiritual people who deny the body and say that, oh, the body is wrong, the body is like less spiritual than the spirit itself. But nope, sorry to break it to you, but your body is very much a part of your spiritual path. Anyway, she told me that she had encountered this face reader who told her that the wells under her eyes represent all the tears she never cried. And I don't know if that's actually true or not, that you get these wells when you don't cry and release your tears and sadness, but she said it was very true for her, that there were a lot of tears she held back in life. And when I heard her say it, I was like, oh shit, maybe that's why I have all these like deep pockets under my eyes. I'm just holding all these tears in there. Yeah, so okay, next I'm going to enhance the natural arch of my eyebrow and make it more severe. I'm also going to enhance my widow's peak, which is something I've always been self-conscious about. Also, why is it called a widow's peak? Like, I wonder if that has something to do with face reading too, like if there's some symbolic significance to that. Anyway, what was I going to say? Okay, so the thing about the eyebrows is I'm enhancing this specifically because I have a very strange relationship with the concept of evil. Because I grew up in an incredibly oppressive, abusive Pentecostal church. And I was like in this very interesting position where I was the pastor's goddaughter. And so there was a lot of pressure on me to be extra well-behaved, extra good, and all of that. And they were very big on like everything's demonic, everything's satanic, which, you know, funny enough, I have since returned to my faith, and I do take that stuff very seriously. I recognize that, you know, demons are real and all of that. That's kind of not the point here. At the time, I was just like an innocent kid, right? And yet, you could get accused of being evil for literally anything. So I'd say that the most outstanding example of this that traumatized me, I could turn this off now, is that I once dared to ask my Sunday school teacher why in the book of Deuteronomy are rape victims instructed to marry their rapists or else get stoned to death. I was so deeply disturbed by that because I had been sexually assaulted. And instead of answering my question, this bitch said, oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask someone else, one of the higher-ups in church about that, and I'll get back to you. And then no one ever got back to me. What happened instead is I got called to the front of the church for an exorcism. They tried to pray the demon of double-mindedness out of me for what felt like an hour. I don't know, it could have just been a few minutes, but when you're being like brought to the front of the church and you have 3 adults with their hands all over your body screaming prayers into your ears to try to get the demons out of you, and nothing's happening because there is no demon in you, yeah, it definitely has a way of dilating time. So it felt like I was there forever. Then they eventually gave up and when they realized nothing was going to happen. But that, you know, I never got an apology, never got an explanation, anything like that. Everyone just went on like nothing happened. But it stayed with me, you know, this idea that my questions were evil. My questions were not welcome, and that I was somehow like a tainted sinner because I dared to ask a question and I had to be publicly humiliated and put back in my place so that I would never ask a question again, right? And so because I have a very questioning nature, like it is who I am, to explore perspectives and ask questions and stuff and be philosophical, as you might imagine, the message I got was who you are is demonic because you ask questions. Who you are is evil. So I'm enhancing the arches on my eyebrows to look more villainous because now the ugliness I wish to face in doing this is, what if I am evil? What would that mean? And now when I say that, I'm not condoning evil at all. I think evil is real and you shouldn't be fucking around with it. But I'm really interested in the disconnect that so many people have in their discernment, where they can look at just someone aesthetically and think that something's like dark or wrong about that person, when actually the person is quite innocent. You know, I like to wear a lot of black. And so that's another thing that's kind of gotten me questioned or judged in a really harsh negative way over the years. It's like, why do you wear so much black? Like, it makes you look evil or depressed or emo, or I don't know. It's just people are so afraid of all the wrong things. And so again, it comes back to that concept of aesthetics serving a profound spiritual function, where just the appearance of the color black can make a person freak out. Like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of evil because of a color? Okay, I think I've made my point. And now that said, I want to keep going on this religious point. I find it very interesting that in the Bible, when angels appear, they have to tell people, do not be afraid. Why might that be? Could it be that the angels are horrifying to behold? Could it be that they're ugly? And considering that in terms of the rank of spiritual beings, the angels are said to be the closest to God, or at least they're closer to God than humans are. If angels are ugly and angels are closer to God, what does that say about God? Is God ugly? I know a lot of people would say God is invisible altogether. I don't know that that's true, or if, I guess it would be hard to wrap our brains around the spectacle of God, given that we have very limited frequency range that we can perceive with human eyes. So I don't know that God is invisible. I think God just may be invisible to us. And those who have been granted the glimpses of God in the Bible or through mystical experiences often describe it as quite overwhelming, quite terrifying, like beyond our comprehension. I'm thinking I should add something here. Okay. I'm gonna try this. I've actually never tried this before, but it's got a good amount of glitter in it. I feel like it'll pick up. Oh, that's actually quite yellow. Do I not have like a silver? Oh, I guess I don't. Alright, I'm gonna work with what I have. Maybe it works that the colors don't match because this is an ugly look, like on purpose. Anyway, I once heard somebody say that in the Orthodox Christian Church, heaven and hell are actually the same place. They are both the presence of God. So if you are not pure in your soul, you are going to experience the presence of God as scathing, excruciating, burning you alive, burning away your impurities, and that's hell. On the contrary, if you are pure and you approach God with genuine devotion and love, you will experience the presence of God as pure bliss, as heaven. But it's the same place. And that brings me to my next point about ugliness. I think there is no objective beauty standard that could ever be relied upon, because the thing we are not understanding about beauty and ugliness aesthetically, this is so cliche, but beauty is in the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. To take that a step further, what you perceive as ugly says a hell of a lot more about you than it does about what you're perceiving. So that's why beauty standards vary so much from culture to culture, because humanity's attempt to enshrine a definition of aesthetic beauty into the culture at large, it's always going to fail until people realize that what we perceive is ourselves in everything. The world is a giant hyperdimensional holographic mirror. Everything is you. So when you perceive something as ugly, a great spiritual practice is to ask yourself, why? Why do I perceive this as ugly? What about it? What aspect of myself is being shown to me in this thing? Right? Oh, I gotta put in contacts later. I better not go too crazy with this. What is it that I'm not facing? What is it that I'm trying not to see? What is it that I'm trying to hide from myself and others? And why? What's the worst that could happen if I look at this thing I don't want to look at? Do I think I'm going to die? In a sense, I guess. It could be an ego death, right? Like a metaphorical death. The identity you were clinging to, the one where the ugliness has been effectively hidden, that part has to die in order for you to find the truth. You can't hide parts of yourself or from others and ever know the truth of this reality, of this life. It just can't happen. So facing ugliness is like necessary in order to advance as a person. So that brings me back to my album, and as I'm telling you about the album, I'm gonna put on my lip stuff. So the thing about my lips is all my life people have been telling me I look like I'm scowling. I look like I'm sad. Girl, why don't you smile more? And the funny thing is that's literally just my face. I mean, resting bitch face is a whole phenomenon, but in my case, my lips turn downward naturally, like that. So for this look, I'm gonna enhance that. I'm gonna make my lips turn down even more, because fuck the haters telling me to smile. So because all my life people have projected this sadness onto me that isn't there. Like, oh, why do you look so sad? I have had no choice but to be incredibly aware and sensitive to how people will project their own repressed emotions onto you. This is especially true if you're a woman. Women just tend to have this effect of being like screens that people project their shit onto. It's so subtle, the difference. I think you'll see it better when I put the brown lipstick on. There's this interesting thing that happens when someone is perceiving something that makes them aware of something they've repressed in themselves. So in this case, sadness, right? Sadness is a big one that people hide. It's a big, ugly thing we all have in common. So when a random woman walks by and her face is just neutral, and you perceive it as sad, again, that says more about you than it does about the woman. But the fact that some people take it a step further and they don't just project their sadness onto the person, they then try to correct that person's face, as if that person's face is the source of the sadness they're now being reminded exists within themselves. So that brings me to my point about how people react to ugliness as if it's something that needs to be fixed in the outer world. Right? So as if telling a woman to smile as she walks by you on the street is going to magically make your own discomfort with your own shadow go away. You're still going to be sad. You're still going to have that repressed sadness in your own unconscious until you face it in yourself. Trying to correct the outer world is the opposite of what you should do when you're confronted with something ugly. Because again, every time you're confronted with something ugly, it's literally just showing you yourself. 100% of the time. That's just my conclusion that I've reached. And I will not be taking questions. I'm kidding. But yeah, I've known a lot of people who are pathologically obsessed with beauty. And there's nothing wrong with appreciating beauty. I mean, beauty's beautiful. We all, there's qualities of beauty that make sense to desire, like symmetry, harmony, beautiful colors, things like that. But again, when you're seeking beauty in the outer world and you're seeking to create beauty by manipulating the outer world but not making any changes on the inside, guess what? Nothing's ever going to look beautiful enough to you. You're never going to be satisfied. I know people who've become obsessed with like plastic surgery and things like that because, yes, it's a cliche, but it's true that if you don't fix the thing inside yourself that makes you see ugliness in the mirror, no matter what you do in the outer world to change your face, you're still going to see an ugly face because that perception is coming from inside you. It's not from the outside. So, it tends to be the case that the more obsessed somebody is with beauty, the more that they are hiding from themselves and from the world. And they don't necessarily know this, but I've seen a lot of, it's the classic, it's the classic, keeping up appearances. Oh, the guests are coming over. We got to break out the good china and hide the mess in the basement and hope that they don't walk through the basement. Things like that. And until the lesson is learned, until the ugliness is faced, it's that superficial correction of ugliness is not going to help your soul. Right? And so ugliness is not necessarily the destination on the spiritual path. That's not what I'm suggesting. It is certainly a doorway to greater beauty. The facing of the ugliness is what allows for greater beauty to take form. What I'm saying is the beauty is never going to come from the outside in. It's always going to be from the inside out. And it is only through the turning one's inner eye inward onto the inner world, looking within at what has been hidden from oneself, facing the ugliness, then facing that, integrating it, accepting it, appreciating it, loving it back to fullness, back to wholeness, back to completion, is what creates that harmony and symmetry and balance in the inner world that then is reflected in the outer world in the form of what we call beauty. And that is the medicine I hope to share with this album, Ugly, where I faced many of my own ugly things, like repressed rage, repressed sadness, bad memories, fears that I have. And now that the album is done, I feel stronger and happier and lighter. I feel more alive. I feel more beautiful. So I really hope that you all are able to benefit from this album as much as I have. I hope that you love it. I think you will. Honestly, this album kicks ass. I'm not afraid to say that. And as always, lovelings, I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. I'm gonna put some, you know what? Why not? While I'm here, let me just put some body glitter on. And as a parting gift, I want to leave you with a question. What's ugly for you? What's in your inner world that you're trying not to experience? What have you been hiding? What's hideous for you? Is it uncomfortable emotions, bad experiences, memories, desires? Sometimes our own desires can be fucking scary to us. They're so hideous. It's a hideous thing to want something, to yearn for something, right? And it's so embarrassing. It's humiliating to want the things that we want, and yet that is precisely what life is made of. And until we accept that fact, how much can we really say we are alive, right? So anyway, let's see if I can get this right. Oh, that's subtle. My studio is about to be covered in glitter. I want you to start thinking of the ugliness in your life as a doorway to truth. Truth being the only thing in this life worth having. You know? Seek and ye shall find is a cosmic law. If you seek, you will find. So if you seek truth, just know that on the path you will have to encounter ugliness. You will have to confront the part of yourself that tries to hide the truth from yourself. Why do you do that? Why do any of us do that? It's the question worth asking. And so I dare you to ask yourself, what's ugly for you? And then I dare you to just be that. Just be the ugliness. Just embody it, embrace it, inhabit it, and see what happens. In my case, it's been very, very healing, to embrace this ugly symbol of the anglerfish who is feared and villainized and hated and accused of wrongdoing. And now I'm on the other side of that initiation, and I am so, so, so much more happy and alive and free. And I want that for you all. So that's it for now. I'm going to keep going with this makeup and do the photo shoot, and you'll see it soon. All right, I love you. Toodles.